This is for the BBC. Okay.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll.
You came across to England in the 60s, didn't you? Yes. That's when you came over here first. And, you know, the British and I think the Europeans have taken you kind of to their heart. I mean,
yes.
Are you happy when you're here? Do you feel different when you're here?
I came here in 1966 was the first time. Rivers Deep Mountains High was a huge success in London. And I was thrilled. England was leading in fashion, the mini dresses. It was it. I had an energy. There was an energy here that brought something out in me that excited me. And I look forward to coming back each time. And then after that, my career started here many years later with Martin Ware producing a song called Let's Stay Together. Yeah. And I've been basically living here at the St. James's Hotel, straight through, basically working in Europe, working here, and working with most of the musicians here. It just became home, and so then I finally got a place here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to play. Are you going to settle here? Is this, or will America always be home for you?
No, this is it. I've lived long enough to know when I found my place, and traveling here since 1966, and now finally getting a place here. I basically have decided to live on this side for the next half of my life.
Well, obviously they don't want you here, but I'm glad you're here anyway.
You know, every now and then I think you might like to hear something from us.
Rolling on a river, rolling.
Well, in the early days, it was Anne Margaret in Las Vegas. She had about 20 guys with her, and the costumes were great, and the dancing was perfect, and the lighting, it was wonderful. And so when I started my career as a solo artist, I wore a lot of Bob Mackie dresses, sort of like the ones that Cher wore and Margaret wore. And then when I went out for rock and roll, I decided it was all about me. It was about a jean jacket and a leather dress and big hair, and that was my statement. That was me becoming really rock and roll, being one with what I always wanted.
The creative partnership that was you and Ike, and how influential was he on what you eventually became?
I decided what songs was to be sung on stage, but I did the choreography with the dancers.
Yeah.
I organized the dresses for the dancers and myself. I had no say other than that. Ike was trying to get me then to write songs, which was very uncomfortable for me because that takes another training to write songs. And so it stayed like that for quite a while. I did my best with the clothes and with the dancing.
Yeah.
But then, that gets a little bit old. And then he went on to trying to get me to write the songs and all, and it just went from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
Actually, the first song was A Fool in Love, was the first hit, and it was written for a male singer, Art Lassiter, that was singing with the band at the time. And so I said to Ike, like in the musical, I know the song, I can sing it.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, just do the demo, because he had paid for studio, and there was no one to sing it. So when I did it, and he did the song, recorded the song, he took it to New York to Juggy Maris, Sue Records, and he said, why not keep it with the girl's voice? I like the female voice. And I thought, I'm sure. Good idea. Then I'll become Ike. And I think that was how that came about.
Am I a fool for being in love? Every time he leaves me, I break down and cry. Listen.
And did he get a performance out of you didn't know you had in you? Was he helpful in that regard?
No, I heard Art sing it. I knew how it was sung. I was there.
Uh-huh.
And it was, like, how do you say, a way of life. The singers around and everyone, Ike was constantly always trying to get a hit record, always trying to get, but he wanted to be a part. Ike couldn't sing. He could do it with the music, maybe songwriting, but to try to perform, he couldn't.
Yeah. So he created
He
created
yes,
Tina
yes,
Turner.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were like his muse.
I was his muse.
Yeah.
And that was when he went to New York to get the record deal, and he
Yeah.
came back and he says, "Here's the record." I said, "Who is Ike or Tina?" He says, "You're Tina." And I didn't know.
And you're Anna May at the time.
I'm animate little anything but Tina.
Yeah.
That was really foreign. And then, but in those days, you didn't talk back. So then I realized, okay, so I'm Tina. It's very hard to say that for a long time, but I became Tina.
A church house, gin house, a schoolhouse. You have to watch what you put down.
Do you feel that you've had two careers, or do you see it all as one career?
No, actually, it's two careers. I actually did a convention in Tennessee, in Georgia, and I said, when I first started my career, this disc jockey was the first one that played my record, and then when I started my career, and the girl from my Billboard wrote, that was really quite confusing. What did she mean when she started her career? Well, Tina, do have a career on my own now, and then Ike and Tina was, in the past.
Right.
And more successful as Tina, I think, than Ike and Tina.
Okay, I don't want to talk at all about your private life with Ike, but I do want to talk about the musical fusion.
All right.
Which was pretty unique, wasn't it? It was a pretty big sound.
Yeah,
And-
I liked Ike's sound. It wasn't a sound for recording. Actually, I think he needed production help for records, but for live, it was just incredible. I do still really like his guitar playing, the sound of
Right.
he had a unique sound.
In those days, who were your own influences? I mean, who did you look up to in those days when you had your first career?
Yeah, it was basically Sam Cooke. It was Ray Charles, that type of delivery. And when I first really saw action on stage was Jackie Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the hair and the action and the skipping around and the how do you call the continental suit bit. It was really nice.
Now, amongst other things, my next guest has been called the hardest working woman in show business. She's been called a soulful temptress, and if that's not enough, the female Mick Jagger. Ladies and gentlemen, Tina Turner. Well done.
Thank you.
When you were a little girl in Nutbush, it's very hard for me to say Nutbush, because I want to say Nutbush or Nutbush, Nutbush,
Yes.
in Tennessee. Did you warble in front of a mirror?
All the time.
What did you wear in those days? Or nearly wear?
My mother's things.
Yeah. Was there any kind of gospel singing or a church
Oh,
singing?
yes, all the time. Baptist choir and all the time singing talent shows, picnics, and...
But you do now mix in an entirely different kind of world. You almost teach certain people to do things, because a small bird on the 29th of February 1984, today, told me that you've been in the past teaching Mick Jagger how to sing.
Well, dance. How to dance.
Dance?
It was dance. Well, actually, it wasn't teaching. It was, we were just sort of playing around in the dressing rooms, and it was before... We were having fun in the dressing rooms, dancing. Yeah. And it was before he started dancing, and it was the pony step.
You've been on the road now for 19 years.
Yes.
And you had a fairly rocky time at the end of your marriage to Ike Turner. Are we over that now?
Yes. It's been about 8 years, and 8 years of hard work, and really finding out what I could do in terms of what songs I wanted to sing and how I wanted to look, and the people that I choose to be around me, you know.
Did you have, in a sense, to pick yourself up off the floor, or were you free-floating? Were you happy to be?
I was on the floor.
You were?
Yes. There were many lawsuits. There were tax problems. But my attitude about it all was that finally I was on my own and to do what I wanted to do. It was a matter of years to finish all the debts that was to be paid from the marriage. And that was what was most important. But also it was the outcome, to see what would the outcome be. And it was a hit record right back here. It was great.
There's a pale moon in the sky. Can you make your way? This is time for letting go.
Greg Walsh. Incredible. I don't know where he is today, but I would love it if he and Martin got back together. and did something, because I sat there and they were like scientists in there. You know the song Science? I used to tease them about that. They were sitting in the room and it looked like an x-ray machine that they slotted this thing into, and that was the electric sound. It was all done with machines. It was like surgery was going on in a little opposite room, and I'm standing here singing. And the sound was incredible. It's incredible today. If you're going to do electric music, you should do it with Greg Walsh and Martin Ware. It was, I tell you, I did the most fantastic vocal as well, because when I heard what they were doing, when we listened back, I felt, oh, this is huge, this arrangement. It's like an orchestra in a strange kind of way. It was wonderful, the experience of singing. It was. Yeah, that was just the three of us, just them and that typewriter and the x-ray machine. That's what the equipment looked like. But of course it wasn't. I don't know how you describe the music, but what they did, this metal sheet sliding it into, and then like they were typing. Huh? Well, what do I know? Don't know how to do that. That's what I don't know.
Let me say the same, baby.
This song was very me. I could just see myself performing it. It was just right. Yeah, the words and the delivery, the performance of it. And what I liked about what Rupert Hine did with it is his style of keyboard. Down, 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 down. It just bled through. And wherever you hear it, that's the first thing you got was that bass line that he added. That is what made that song a hit. It was my vocal and Rupert Hine's keyboard. Mark produced the song and sung it, and after he did it, he felt that it was not a song for a man. So it was just sitting there on the shelf. So he gave me the track and the whole thing, because at first I was going to try to just put my voice on Mark's tapes, but there was a record company problem. So we got Mark's musicians, Dire Straits, and went in. I took it because it was an unusual song. I'd never sung a song like it. And I wish you could hear Mark's version of it. It was, I'm your private dancer. And, you know, he's got a very English-sounding voice in the accent. And it was really quite beautiful. It was very arty-sounding, very arty sound. But I guess Mark just decided against it. So I put the old soulful touch on it, so there it was.
Well, the men come in these places.
Well, it's very nice to see and very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Now, listen, how
You
long...
waited a long time to meet me, didn't you?
Yeah, 5 minutes. No, I've been wanting to meet you since 1967. That's the truth.
Well, you don't have to go that far back.
But you do a thing on stage where I watched you at an awards thing, and I was sat at a table, and I must have been about like 10 yards from you, and you looked at me as if you knew me.
Oh!
You did. You get now. There's a certain thing that you do on stage.
I get embarrassed. Don't talk about performances.
But it is. You have a unique. I mean, it's a kind of backhanded compliment because you do have a unique stage presence. Is that something that you've kind of worked on, or is something you feel comfortable up on stage, or what?
I don't know, performance. You get involved with the audience some kind of way. That's what the whole thing is about. And I just think it just happened. After being on stage about 28 years, you should learn something, shouldn't you? I think that it all happens once you're there and the music starts and you start to entertain the people, and depending on what you're saying, and it's performance. It's all performance, I'm sure. Not that I didn't mean to flirt with you, because you're really quite attractive, charming, handsome man. But
You think so? You know, you're the only person that's ever said that.
Looks like I won't leave the studio.
No, stay right here.
Out of the ruins.
You're something more than just a singer, because you're also a film star as well, aren't you?
Oh, thank you for saying it.
I bet it's great to be described as singer, film star, model, songwriter.
Isn't that great?
Now, how was that experience? It was the Mel Gibson thing, wasn't it? About a couple of years ago.
It was the Mel Gibson thing, absolutely. That was really the first acting. I mean, there was no singing, there was no dancing. It was driving cars. It was almost fighting male.
You looked really big in that as well, didn't you?
I
Like
was
the big
tall
hair and the
big hair and the shoulder. I was really big because I swole every day from the weight of the dress. It was really a lot of pressure. I was big there, and I loved it. Oh, I loved it. It was more fun doing the movie than actually viewing it, because a lot, of course, was like taken out, and there was so much more that could have been done, but there was a budget problem, and then they had gone over time, and actually I should have gotten back into those clothes that I wore when I got the town and all of that, and went back into war to really save it, but we didn't have time. But I had it all in my head.
Tina Turner at the BBC.
Bono sent me the worst demo. I was sitting at my home in Zurich, and here was this, I think he was hoarse. He didn't have much. He kind of threw it together as if he thought I wasn't going to do it. I called Roger and I said, "This song, I don't even know what key to practice it in. It's unbelievable what I'm sent here." But again, you have to step into the shoes and learn it. And then I sung it how I would sing it, and even Bono was impressed. He said, "I should have known." He said, I remember sending you that, and after I sent it, I realized it was really bad. I had to actually come out of myself to make it a song. But afterwards, I liked what it transformed, my kind of singing that it transformed me into. I'd never sung a song like that. So it really gave me creativity in terms of making something out of something that was really rough, very rough.
See reflections on the water.
Terry had this song called "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And it was just not rock and roll enough for me. I didn't know how to perform a song like that. I mean, because I was, at the time, more performer than recording artist, and I thought of, how can I perform this? So Terry made changes for me. I went in and I said to him what I didn't like about the song, and he changed a different key, and he changed some chords for me. And I started to sing it, and I started to like it. It was unusual and different, but it was so different. That's why it was a hit, because there hasn't been anything out there like it since either. It was one of those songs that you get maybe once a decade,
You must understand the touch of your hand makes my love, but a sweet old-fashioned notion.
It's been said in the press that this might be your last tour. Is it going to be?
Yes, I'm really looking forward to having more of a private life. I've worked all my life. I said something to management. We were in the car driving, and I thought, I've been doing this all my life. All my life I've been working, traveling, away from home, buying houses, decorating houses, and I'm out on the road. I'm not at home. Yeah, I want the next 10 years of mine to enjoy all of that, all of the comforts that I've made for myself. I'm looking forward to that very much.
How do you go from that adulation, that love, the roar of tens of thousands of people, and your music's brought them to that state? Mm-hmm. How do you walk away from that? How do you go sit in your kitchen?
Like this.
But do you not miss it? There must be a tiny bit, no?
You realize that I started singing in my 20s and didn't stop until 70. That's almost every night, on a bus, on a plane, in a car, in a hotel, and no life at all except that. And the first part was even worse with Ike. Second part was a little more difficult because that was the part where I became successful. And I really got tired. I just really became tired of singing and dancing. I wanted to be at home with my things. I wanted to be normal, do shopping for food, maybe even work in the garden. Just wanted to get my hands in the soil and do other things other than always singing and dancing and traveling.
And it seems like you mean it, because most people who say this, within like 2 years, they're back. you said no, and then you really did go away.
I really meant it. When I walked out that stage, the last time was here in London, and the strangest thing happened. It was the last night, and I woke up the next day with the worst chest cold. And I called Roger, my manager, and I said, I can't go on. So for 2 days, I was sick. And then the last day we went to Newcastle, and we had the greatest show. It was really wonderful. But the next day, me, Irvin, and my cook got on the plane, and I took a deep breath, and I said, this is it. I'm not going back for anything.
I call you, I need you, my heart's on fire.
Like with something like The Best, when did you know that was going to be a huge global anthem?
Well, I knew that because at that stage it was great for me to sing something like a song like that. I wanted to sing, how do you say, a heroic song. And Roger wanted me to perform it with in the video with a male. And I said, no, I don't want to say a man is heroic. I want to ride an animal. I want to do something sportive like, you know. So then they brought these English horses. Those horses, you couldn't climb on top of them. And then they brought this wonderful Arabic horse. And that is the one that I rode for it. And I'm so happy I did because it ended up, I think, the best video that I did.
Two final and easy questions, Tina. One is, out of your entire canon of songs, which would you pick as the one you most enjoy performing?
There were quite a few that I loved that wasn't mine because I was accustomed to covering. And I heard Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love.
The lights are on, you're not home, your mind is not your own. Your body sweats, your body shakes, another kiss is what it takes. You can't eat, you can't sleep.
And of course I changed everything that I covered. I like that one very much. It still moves me when I hear it today. I played it a bit faster, I changed some of the lines, but I made it my own. Addicted to Love, something was right about it being my song. Addicted to Love had a naughty edge to it. The lights are on, but you're not on. Something was just very right about every time I sung it. Of course, I got faster and faster because the show was at an end, and I was tired. And it was just the climax of the show. But I always enjoyed it. I always enjoyed it.
And are you Anna May or are you Tina Turner?
Both. How do I say both? Tina Turner is still on stage. People still see me as Tina. I will always be Tina to them because they only see me on stage. They are not in my home and in my private life. I think even the people in my private life might see a little bit of Anna May.
So Anna May is a quiet, reclusive type.
A little bit
Tina Turner is a showwoman.
Less than the showwoman. Much less, I think. You know what I'm proud of?
Yes, go on.
That at this age, there's still something happening with a career. My music doesn't sound old style. There's a musical that's a hit. So aside of being really tired of talking about myself, I'm really proud of what my future as a star became. I feel proud that I hold that in my hand.